Welcome back, guys. As you can see, we're on top of the truck, and this is a customer that they unload. So we're going to do the customer unload video. I've already got everything set up, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But basically, you kind of get places and you get into a time crunch and they're ready to unload, and you don't want to get in their way because they're trying to make a product, and you don't want them to you don't want to slow them down. So here we are on top. This piece of plastic is a screen. Not all of our customers require this screen. It just basically keeps something from falling into the tank while it's unloading. I have my own. It's one of the items that you'll be required to purchase from Prime, but a lot of customers that we go to supply them. So this customer provided this to me, and again, it keeps anything from falling in while the tank is vented. We go back to that video about keeping the trailer from imploding. These hold the lid down, and again, we don't want the lid to be closed, but just to show you, that's how the lid is held closed while we're in transit. It's got a seal so that everything's closed up. This is a little pressure relief valve. It's called a Christmas tree valve. It's got a Chicago fitting over here on the side. There are one or two customers that we use that unload us pneumatically with air, and if that's the case, they can hook up right here with air pressure and push it in, and that'll force the product out the back of the trailer. This is one of our trailers that has a little safety landing, place that you can stand. Some of our other trailers, as I think I mentioned, only have the ladder. There's no place to stand. This is a sliding lid. It just goes over the top. It doesn't contain anything. It just keeps debris from being in that area. So we'll go back now that we've shown this whole area again. Again, I have a short video about this, but we'll go back and we'll show you the back of the trailer for a customer unload. And so here again is the back of the trailer for a customer unload. Again, it's hooked up to the top port. If you watch the hour pump video, we're hooked up to the bottom port. This is the actual pump right here. So that's not being used. And here you can see this is the valve. It's in the closed position. If I were to open this, product would flow down into the pump and towards the bottom. So that's closed. So we're bypassing the pump completely. For the customer unload, this is the main valve coming out of the back of the trailer. It's in the open position, allows product to flow directly into the hose and into the building. So this is a customer unload. It's a customer that I am going to use my hose for. This is kind of one of our odder trailers. The hoses are on the outside. If you remember the hour pump video, the hoses were on the inside. We only got maybe 10 trailers that have these hoses on the outside. We just don't have a lot of them. So I'm going to take a pause here in the video. I'm going to go inside and I'm going to talk about a couple things as far as customer and our unload videos. So be right back. So that gives you a good idea of a customer unload. Topic I wanted to bring up basically is that all these places are different. I've shown you a somewhat typical hour pump location. I've now shown you a somewhat typical customer pump or customer unload video. But the point that I want to make is just about everywhere you go, there will be some slight variation on how they do things. So I don't want you to watch the hour pump video, and I'll put that link in the description, and think that's the only way you're going to do it. You're going to get to some places, and that place, the way they worked is You drive in, you park where we unload, you walk to the office, and boy, this spring has been hot. I don't know about where you guys are, but it's 60-some degrees in Columbus, Ohio today, which is bizarre for mid-February. But anyway, you walk to the office, you come back, you wait for them to approve. I had already hooked up to the hydraulic lines at that particular place. You'll notice for customer unload, I don't have to hook up the hydraulic lines. It's a much simpler process. You hook up a hose, you vent the trailer, you open a valve. You're done. Much simpler process. There are other places we go that for customer unloads are even simpler than that. I did a customer unload yesterday, and that was another place where, like I said, you get to a place and they're ready to unload you. And, I don't want to slow them down as far as doing these videos. So sometimes, as the case today, it's just easier to videotape it after the fact. And I think you guys can get the idea, especially after having watched me, hooking up a hose and putting a strap on the dog ears is not that difficult. You saw me do it in the other video. You hook them up the same way, you open the valve the same way, so that's not terribly different. But what is different is the place I went yesterday. They have a scale. When you get there, you check in with your paperwork, you go onto a scale, they scale your weight while you're loaded, you unload. While you unload, they have a hose, so you don't even have to use your hose. You back in, you vent the trailer, they hook up their hose, they'll even open the valve for you, disconnect everything, you go back to the scale, and you get your paperwork and you check out. So there's slight variations. There's a place that I have gone where they don't want you to even get out of the truck. You back into a spot, they've got a hose, they've got a guy that comes out, he climbs up on top of the trailer. That was a particular product that was like 180 some degrees, so they've got a hose that is insulated, and they don't want you to get burned by a 180 degree hose. So, man, they do everything. You don't have to do a thing. There's places more like this where all they do is you get there, they sign the paperwork, they say that's where you unload, and you never talk to anybody again. So what I'm trying to say is every place is slightly different. And when you get there, one of the first things you're going to ask is, my pump or your pump? And that'll tell you if you have to hook up the hydraulic lines, if you're going to, which port you're going to hook up to, the top one for the customer's pump, the bottom one if it's your pump, it's the truck's pump. And then it's also going to tell you, the next question's going to end up being, have you been here before? And if you have to ask if it's my pump or your pump, they typically know that you probably haven't been there. You can change that with, I haven't been here in a while, if you haven't been there before. I can't remember which pump it is. But if you tell them, hey, I've been here before, and it's a location like where I went yesterday, they're going to assume that you know how to unload. The place here today, I handed in my paperwork, and he says, go ahead and open it all up. Well, he assumed that I was just going to do everything and open the valve. And when I'm empty, I'm going to go back and disconnect everything, and he's going to hand me my paperwork. Now, if you've never been here before, and he says, go ahead and open it all up, you might just cut the seals and then be standing around waiting for the guy, and the guy's not going to come back. So you have to be clear and say, I've not been here before, what do you want me to do? So a couple of points out of that. Every place is slightly different. And secondly, because every place is slightly different, you have to be very clear about, if you've been there before, what's their expectation of what you're going to do. And if you haven't been there before, make sure you're clear what they want you to do. Because I've been places where I've backed into a spot and they say, okay, well, you know, that's where you unload. And an hour later, they say, aren't you done yet? And my expectation was that somebody was going to come back out and tell me, you can unload now. Well, when they said that's where you unload, that particular customer meant that's where you unload, and I'll be back in about an hour to give you your paperwork because I expect you to be done. So it's another level of communication. And I know I've talked about communication in terms of your fleet manager, but you also need to communicate with the customer and that level of understanding. What do they expect of you? Are you going to use your pump? Is it their pump? Don't cut the seals until they tell you to. And if you don't know if you're approved to cut the seals, make sure you ask. And again, I know I mentioned this before, but if this is the first video you're watching, there are braided cable seals. It's just braided steel cable, and then there's a little metal piece on it. Should have grabbed one. It's got a number on it. And then our bills. I'll grab an old bill here. So here's from yesterday. I might do a video about my paperwork at some point. So on here, it says seal number. And there's the 2 seals that were on that trailer. So in addition to having a trailer number, so there's a trailer number, 357004, and then there's a seal number, 627, 981 and 982. So the way the customer knows they're getting exactly what the paperwork says is they check the trailer number and they check the seals on the trailer, because maybe somebody miswrote down the trailer number and then put the seals on. And again, it's just you saw them if you watched the other video. Again, you can look at the link in the description what the seals are that I'm talking about. And again, you don't cut those until they tell you to cut them. But again, it's all about expectations and communicating with your customer and understanding what they expect out of you. So that's what this video is about. Came up with another topic, which is kind of nice to do. How I handle my paperwork and what I do with it. So I'll do a video on that coming up. Thanks for watching. Again, if you want to come to Prime, click on, I'll have a link in the description that'll take you right to the Prime application. You don't have to go searching. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again next week.